Welcome to what we're calling an accidental bits and bobs. This very much wasn't part of the plan. We had enough to be doing, but Ronan's never-ending quest for podcast perfection got the better of him again, and I, for one, am with him. We have loads going on, loads to record, loads coming up, but loads just kept on happening, so we decided to jump into the studio again this afternoon. And the we in question is the aforementioned Ronan Mullen.
Hi, Canon.
Erstwhile mentioned, does that work?
Aforementioned's probably the one. We're in the right ballpark, though.
Yeah. And Conor McEwen.
All right, lads.
There hasn't been a dub living in Áras an Uachtaráin since 1959, so of course you decided to hightail it down here.
Well, we're all going for the job of Jim's press officer or the keeper or whatever, so put your best foot forward.
Yeah.
Wasn't there a sense that, or at least maybe he wasn't putting forward this notion, but that Jarlath Burns, his I would say well-received GAA presidency, was a conduit to a potential full presidential run. He's been very presidential in his demeanour, but in fact he's actually empowered by launching the FRC. He's empowered Jim Gavin.
Created a monster.
Yeah, it's an accidental presidential run.
Like an accidental bits and bobs.
Yeah,
so we have Jim Gavin for Uachtaráin coming up. Hamer has named his Ireland squad for his first World Cup qualifiers. Jack O'Connor couldn't walk away from Kerry, not when he's closing in on Jim Gavin. And we've got a couple of emails as well. What else is going on? Darren Hughes has retired from inter-county football after giving 19 years to Monaghan. Gabriel Bannigan had a great line about him, saying Darren would stand on his head for the good of Monaghan football. A hell of a servant, hell of a player, athlete, one of those guys I think that people just tend to like and definitely respect anyway.
Yeah, every year when you cover the Monaghan for the first time in the season, you look down the team list and you see the Darren Hughes on the bench. You're like, I'm sure there's no way he's still. But
must be a cousin.
No, I mean, what a warrior! What a warrior!
Venus Williams is out of the US Open, oldest player to compete in singles since 1981, but she lost to 11th seed Carolina Muchova. The new Formula One team, Cadillac, Sergio Perez and Valtteri Bottas are their new drivers. Alex Dunn had been rumoured to be in the hunt there, but they've gone with the two veterans. Ronan O'Neill, classy Tyrone forward. I mean, time is moving on here, lads. There's another footballer going, and he's gone into a backroom team. He's gone into the live backroom team to join Gavin Devlin, and Aaron Kernan, Armagh man, joins Robbie Brennan's management team at Meath. He was a Sligo last year, but Ronan, your boy, is very much in Armagh's crosshairs now.
It's an interesting development that he's gone to Meath and Tony McEntee rumoured to be going to Down while there's a vacancy in the coaching capacity with Armagh. So just I wonder who will fill that, or will it just be done by the pre-existing team that's there already, with Conor Gilligan had been focusing on transition work in the main, and obviously Kieran McKeever's the defensive guru in that setup, but will it just be more of a spread of responsibilities, or has McGeeney earmarked someone? Because McEntee in particular, McGeeney himself came in initially as an assistant and then got the big job, so I wonder, was there just a sense that McEntee has he gone past that? But then the fact that he's taken the Down job obviously shows not.
Yeah, are you getting antsy now? The Armagh backroom team is depleted. People are taking other jobs elsewhere, either side of you, Meath and Down.
Well, I think we got one bonus here with Kieran Donaghy, to be fair. I think if they hadn't won the All-Ireland, he probably would have packed it in. It's a miracle that he did it for as long as he did it. I did the drive twice to Tralee for the two games that Armagh played against Kerry, and that was it. That was enough. It took me a week. It was like West Coast hangover. Anyway.
We have John Milan on the Indo GAA podcast talking about Pat Ryan departing from the Cork job after 3 years in charge. The football show yesterday with Ronan and Gary Breen. Sean Patton interview coming up this week. And Connor, you have done a golf show for us as well with Jaime Diaz.
That's right, yeah. Jaime Diaz, one of the great broadcasters and journalists in golf media. He was on with Joe not long after Rory McIlroy won at Augusta, when the two lads predicted a triumphant encore to that success. But no, it was an interesting one. It's just the PGA Tour season finished on Sunday. It doesn't cause a drop in the ocean of sporting interest on this side of the pond. But the FedEx Cup is effectively a mechanism to feed the American thirst for a playoff in everything that they have. and they kind of contrived it in a way this year that despite the fact that Scotty Scheffler had twice as many points as the next highest person on the list, everybody went into the Tour Championship the last round starting on a level score. So Tommy Fleetwood came in and nipped in, and I mean, if you're going to win your first competition in America, may as well wait until there's $10 million up for grabs.
Yeah, how do you look back elevator pitch wise now on the season, like in terms of the Rory McIlroy thing? Because the wisdom from
only about two people: Scotty Scheffler, Rory McIlroy. That's it.
Yeah.
Golf needs loads of stars. It has two. Simple as that. There's a couple of other guys who are playing on a different tour, but the PGA Tour is so bad. Rory owned the early part of the year when Scheffler was out injured. And he did his damage. And like from this remove, it seems like quite a while ago, but you have to remember, like, he won the Players in Sawgrass, he won the AT&T at Pebble Beach, like a big tournament at a big course, and then obviously the Masters. But everything since there has been about Scheffler. He's extraordinary.
And you look back and be like, well, of course that was going to happen. No, you know, I know we all thought Rory will have the shackles off. It'll be easier for him.
Yeah, a little bit. But again, like, Jaime makes this point, and you know, when you're on the way up, it's very hard to envisage the thing that's going to stop you. And Rory McIlroy had that for a long time, and Scotty Scheffler has it now. Like, what's the thing that's going to stop Scotty? But something will, because that's how it works.
Yeah.
You know, he has a great equilibrium about him, and, you know, an ability to be intense over every shot. You know, sometimes you watch Rory McIlroy and you're like, is he really sort of feeling this, you know, the way he would? And I think that's the difference between the two now. Rory's at the stage of his career where he can probably give it a run and, you know, in practice intensely around the majors. But what Scheffler is able to do is just bring a level of consistency to it. But that'll change, you know. Like, Rory went 11 years without winning a major, and so did Tiger Woods. And at the start of those 11-year runs, you wouldn't have got odds on that happening. So it'll happen eventually. But at the moment, it's Scheffler's time. But the interesting thing, if I can use that word liberally, is that the new PGA Tour CEO met the media at Atlanta at the Tour Championship, and like he's coming from the NFL, like and one of the big innovations the NFL have done is Brian Roloff is his name, but one of the big things the NFL have done, obviously, and we'll see it ourselves, is bring games to different countries. And at the moment, golf has a problem in that it's very localized for commercial reasons in America. And back in the day when Tiger Woods was Scotty Scheffler, he was playing in Australia and China and Germany because they were big tournaments that demanded the presence of the best golfer in the world. Whereas Scotty Scheffler, I think, has played in 5 Opens, and I'm not sure he's played a pro tournament in any other country in the world other than America. So that is an issue, and it'll be interesting to see what direction the PGA Tour goes with it.
We look at Rory McIlroy from this vantage point, obviously, and Scheffler is the other side of that coin. Was he always a likely lad, sure thing, in the same way everybody thought wunderkind Rory McIlroy was to be big? Yeah. Has he been talked about from way out?
Yeah, like even after his first year in the PGA Tour, going into the second year, and all the previews were who's the guy who's going to win something this year, and everybody predicted Scheffler. The big problem was he was an average putter. He's the best golfer of all time who was only an average putter. All the greats, you know, Tiger, Nicklaus, Palmer.
So are there
great putters? But he has now become an elite putter statistically this year. He won majors. He won majors having a minus strokes gained in putting, which is an extraordinary testament to the rest of your bag. But this is the year where he seems to have. He works with a guy called Phil Kenyon, who works with a lot of putting. You know, a lot of people who struggle with their putting. And it's not that it's a weakness, but it is, like, if you look where he sits on the charts with all the other statistics, it's a relative weakness in his game. But this is the year he became an elite putter. And if you look at some of the stats, I think the last round at the Tour Championship, I think it was his 21st round in the row in the 60s or something like that, and he's finished in the top 8. His top 8 streak now outranks everybody going back to Arnold Palmer, so he's in a very, very rarefied place. And
are there equivalent clips of him on Jerry Kelly
on
UTV? Like when he was a 13-year-old, was he getting talked about as in the same way McIlroy over here?
No, probably in America it's a little bit different. It's like, you know, anybody who's
make it on Oprah or Ellen.
No, they don't have a school around the corner, and like he grew up initially, like his parents were in New York, and it's a matter of record that they moved from New York after 9/11, you know, and went to Texas, and they had enough money to join a country club, but he seems to be a very ferociously competitive person. That thing that he said at the Open about his motivation, and we all jumped at it that it was some sort of existential crisis. He kind of clarified it later because everyone got the wrong end of the stick, and he was kind of saying, no, like what I was trying to say is I'm trying to figure out why this is so important to me. I'm not saying it's not important to me. And while he has all those things that seem to be very balanced in his very, I won't say squeaky clean because I don't know, but in his very kind of, he seems to have all the pots and pans kind of stacked up pretty well in his life, and so long as that's the case, it's hard to see anybody catching him.
Isn't it funny, Colin, not to give you an awful non sequitur remark to hand it back to you, but
Go on.
isn't in America like there's so much like local TV, like that Jerry Kelly thing? I'm sure everyone in the north saw that at one time or another over the coming years or the subsequent years. Whereas many of the most viral clips in the history of the internet have come from like just your random Nevada district television channel. It's just a different world in that regard.
Well, there is no replacing school around the corner. It really was one of a kind. I was there one time. My school were on it, but I wasn't old enough to be participating.
Oh.
Yeah, just sitting in the crowd watching.
Blackboard Jungle, were you on that?
No, definitely not.
Never got the call?
No, I don't. No.
We got a couple of emails. I don't think it's an entrant into pedant corner, but it's definitely a complaining corner, but we don't discriminate. Send your emails and they'll all be considered. This one comes from Sean. Hi, really love the podcast. Listen to all of them and enjoy them all. I have one small gripe, though. It's all the abbreviations or whatever they're called. Few examples. HG2. I had no idea what was being spoken about for a few minutes. What is so difficult about saying Happy Gilmore 2? FOMO regarding the Oasis gig in Croker. I had to Google that to see what it means. The problem I have is that our language is getting shortened, and soon we will just be speaking in a shortened language that some of the older generation, me included, won't understand. Love the podcast, though. Keep up the good work. Sean from Kilkenny.
Well, fair play to Sean, but if you had to Google what FOMO meant a couple of weeks ago, I'd like to sort of welcome him out from underneath his rock or whatever.
Were you in the HG pod? I can't remember.
I was on the HG2 pod and I didn't know what Will was talking about for the first couple of minutes. Yeah.
Because in fairness, in the lad's defence, I think the emailer who invoked that conversation was the one who made the abbreviation, and then Will just took it to the nth degree. Probably too far.
Yeah. Well, he started saying SMG for Shooter McGavin, like for characters in a HG film.
It was a nice little flourish. But I, having not heard the podcast because I didn't produce that one, I was listening to it later and I saw the headline and I was like, I actually didn't know what they were talking about. I was like, is that a bit too inside baseball? But turns out, got people talking.
We had a good reaction to Friday's panel. John Green, Dion Fanning, Tommy Martin.
Great panel. Great. Big hitters in that panel.
We've already decided we're getting them on again. We have to run it by them first. But it's sort of like when you came around today, Connor, and you're like, what's going on? And we had been planning your day for you before you had arrived over.
We were booking Connor out of meetings.
But actually got a really interesting email from Dara. He said, I enjoy the podcast regularly and listen with interest to this discussion about paying GAA managers. I agree with the concerns about it as separating the elite from the 98% involved in GAA. I thought it worthy of noting in this discussion the unusual case of Rory Gallagher suing the GAA. While there are many nuances to that case that cannot be discussed, is the GAA ready to get into employment law in a whole new way?
Well, the GAA has got its hands full at the moment trying to calculate the tax bill that's owed by its various county boards. Yeah. But see, this is the big problem with it too. It's that, like, if you look at a management team, nearly everybody in it is being paid. Yeah. Like the amateurism that's there, even in the counties that don't pay their manager, counties that have a very strong tradition. I don't want to go listing them now.
Yeah.
But like, people in their backroom team are paid. They have physios, they have medical people, and increasingly the coaches. The person on the line who's not running the team. The majority of cases, they are paid. So it's very pedantic that a manager technically isn't, despite the fact that a lot of them are. And I can understand, like I can totally understand why you wouldn't want to do it. But it's gone so beyond that now. You just have to kind of figure out a way. Like Sean McCaig had that famous quote when he presented the GAA and he went looking for the under the table payments and he said he couldn't even find a table. and that's kind of what it's like. But if like let's there be an amnesty on this bullshit, you know. Everybody knows what's going on. It's going on at club level. It's going on everywhere. And at least if there's some regulation going on, you're kind of able to follow it. And I'm absolutely sure that revenue would take a very big interest now in. But that's the problem if people come out and you know, confess or put on the record that the amount of money that's being passed around the place, they're going to face a huge tax bill. So it's just all a little bit murky, and we're kind of used to it. And it's, you know, we don't really bat an eyelid to it anymore, except for when it comes up in conversations and we say theoretically this, but it's like it's wrong. You know, it's wrong for an organisation the size of the GAA to have a level of breach of its rules that's going on sort of like all over the place all the time, and it just needs to get a handle on it some way. And I'm not saying that that's easy. It's clearly not, because lots of presidents and lots of people in the GAA have given it a go, and I don't even know what your end game is, but it's just the way it is at the moment. It's I don't know, it just feels very disingenuous.
It's definitely it's time though. We're at an impasse. It has to be one or the other. Now we have to pull completely back, or like you say, just do it and have it regulated.
I know one manager who has on his LinkedIn profile GAA manager.
Yeah.
Like, it couldn't be more explicit from people, you know?
Yeah. And I think, see, I'm very interested in this myself because it's an ongoing, almost a real time updating in my head. Like, I'm still not 100% sure where I completely lie with it, right? So for full disclosure, I've been offered payment by county teams and by club teams to do little bits of analysis or bits of work. I have never done it or never accepted it anyway. I've done work for people, but it's not me like coming out here, you know, being holier than thou. It's just I still don't know where I stand on it, and I don't know, and it's not been regular work, so it's been very easy to just say, no, it's okay, I'll just do that for you, or I won't do that for you. But I want to live in a world where the GAA is amateur, and that's the beauty of it, and that's the culture, like the unique culture in this island. And I think last week, anyway, like I'm saying, it's updating in real time. I was very much of the opinion that it gets more confusing because you have to pay these professionals, these physios, strength and conditioning coaches, etc., etc. But now I'm starting to think, as of today, but if they're just contributing to a GAA team, should that not also be part of you're just doing it because that's what you do in your spare time and you're contributing as a volunteer? And I get the difficulty is that it's a professional environment now and we're driving standards.
The problem with it is that there's no, like, we can't sort of do a level of analysis of a cost worth kind of a thing because it's so, but there are counties out there that employ people on the level who are development coaches, be they skills or strength and conditioning.
One problem with those people is that they actually tend to not get bigger jobs in because they don't want to lose them in the job that they're doing.
But then you get people who come in the county manager and they kind of circumvent the systems that are already in place.
Yeah.
That's a big problem because it's more costly. And the other thing is, from a point of view of people who are involved as analysts and everything else, if you get involved in the county and then you go to another county and your level of income is dependent on, it's very hard. I don't know very many people at the moment who could do with a 30% drop in their income or whatever.
Yeah.
So people are reliant on this now. This is what they do, and that's the reality of it. But until we actually unearth the reality of it and actually get it all out there in the open, it's very hard to figure out what way to go.
We need to get Jarlath in, have a roundtable discussion for a couple of hours and really thrash it out because, like it does need.
Yeah, but I admire Jarlath's, like, everything he's done, not every decision or everything that he said, but the kind of, let's be honest about everything. Let's not all just stand around and pat ourselves on the back and say how brilliant we are, amateur and volunteer and everything else. Like the GAA is the sporting organisation that pays more people than any other sporting organisation in the country. Between administrators, people who are paid on the level and people who are paid off the level. That's a fact. Now, that isn't to say that the amateur and the volunteer aspect of it is in any way overplayed or diluted. But, you have to acknowledge as well, there's plenty of people who are amateur boxing clubs and amateur rugby clubs and everything else that tog out and do the same jobs. It's not something that the GAA has some sort of monopoly on. And
you have, for example, accountants doing treasury roles.
Yeah,
because they're better suited for it and they're doing it for the good of the club, sort of thing. So it's not like, that's their livelihood, they should be paid for doing it. They're doing it because that's what the GAA is. Last night, though, what a blockbuster game we had at St James's Park. Newcastle and Liverpool. My 88th minute equaliser for Newcastle. For 10 man Newcastle. Place going absolutely insane. Redemption. They felt under siege. They were slighted by Liverpool for only offering them 110 million for Isak. And there was more to this game than points. League table points. Eddie Howe, the celebration when it got to 2-2, it was real. I don't know, it was real salvation almost stuff. And then a 16-year-old chucked on an injury time. Like, this is a wild card just thrown in there. And oh my God, like, we have to give Szoboszlai credit for his little step over, his selfless step over. And then Nick Pope, 96 minutes, has this new tactic of standing perfectly still on his line when faced with any type of shot. He's not going to move. I think he's developing the Colin Cooper.
Yes, Luka Modric, Paul Scholes.
Sometimes the best movement is not to move, and sometimes he's going to be right.
Ball will come to you, but not if it's flashing past you twice in one game.
Yeah, but what did you think when you saw Liverpool throw out a 16-year-old into the breach?
Irony of it is, if Isak had signed for Liverpool, this chap would never have got on the pitch, probably.
Yeah.
At the same time, the game probably would have been out of sight if Isak was playing for Liverpool. And, you know, the worst thing of all is Anthony Gordon missing those chances, which aren't his bread and butter because he's not a centre forward. Got so frustrated that he got a red card, and, you know, that really ratcheted up things. If Isak was playing for Newcastle and they played like that last night, they would have won the game easily. Like, they thoroughly outplayed Liverpool, which, you know, it's too early to extract too much in terms of finality or how the season will play out. But that's 2 weeks in a row where Liverpool, they've got maximum points, but I'd say they're far from pleased with how they played.
Yeah, well, they got Rio Wingamoa in the frame now as well. So, like, even if Isak does join, they've got plenty of options. We got our first Instagram apology as well of the season. Anthony Gordon, I didn't have him in the bookies.
He fronted up.
Fair play to him. He said, "I want to sincerely apologise to my teammates and the fans. My intentions were pure. I was just trying." What? Listen, he got Roy Keane, Mark Overmars stuff. He said, "I was just trying to create energy in the game and I mistimed the tackle."
So pure.
I also want to apologise to Virgil. I would never intend to tackle somebody like this on purpose. He's not that type of player. And he said, we spoke after and he knows that. I'll be back and better. It's like he's broken his leg or something. And the same as every other setback I've ever faced. See you soon.
It's outrageous.
And Mark is the man.
Yeah, so that's another, not to sound like an old man shouting at a cloud, but like apologising to a fella who you missed time to tackle on Instagram this is not where we need to be as a society. And another place where we need not to be as a society is the most contrived bullshit that the Premier League has ever come out with the referee explaining the thing on the tannoy and like pretending that he's not like absolutely mortified to be doing it.
Yeah.
I have to say, fair play to him for sending him off, right?
Yeah.
Because knowing that you're going to have to do that in James's Park with Newcastle a man down, he could have easily bottled it.
On the sideline as well, I would have walked at least to the centre circle to do it.
Yeah,
He did it like right beside the fans.
But like the idea that you tell all the fans and the television people and all the rest of it before you tell Anthony Gordon, it's just bullshit. It's so contrived. It actually gave me a headache last night.
Yeah. It reminded me of like a stage production of 1984, which I've seen on the West End, and it's like just something very weird Orwellian about the whole thing where like Gordon's standing there like he's at the gallows, knowing what's coming and just standing there like sunken in the whole situation. And I was just like, this is tragic on all kinds of levels.
I was watching from the prism of Ireland last night as well. Obviously, Szoboszlai's brilliant step over for the goal at the end.
Yeah, but, less of that.
Yeah, but more of Kerkez.
Yeah, big time.
What's going on there?
God, that was one of the worst. Like in terms of
Benny loose at him.
Yeah,
quick.
Imagine that in Monday Night Football was a Monday Night Football, but like that's the sort of thing that you'd be analysing, being like, this is too weak. Like it's just Bruno's jumped over the top of him.
My other observation is, where are all these 15 and 16-year-olds coming from? Like, like that. Your man is about a year and a few months older than Max Dowman. And I was watching Arsenal the other day. I was like, this guy's 15. I'm looking at my young lad, he's only 4. But I'm saying, like, you want to get your shit together, pal. You don't have that long. Like,
this is your chance.
Project Max Dowman is the new thing.
Yeah.
15 years of age, 16 years of age scoring the Premier League.
The problem with these guys, because I used to cover primary school games in the newspaper, and it was brilliant, like best job I had. But you had parents on the side, and it was crazy. Like, you know, I think it is that they're hoping that their child will be ready come 15, 16 to make them millions. You know, they're there, like, you know, coaching on the sideline, and it's not even coaching, it's not there, get rid of it. It's like, oh my God, these are 9-year-olds.
Well, wasn't there a story at the weekend that Job Bellingham's father, obviously Jude Bellingham's father as well, got into a row with the either director of football or manager at Borussia Dortmund because he took off Job at half time.
God.
And they've banned players' parents from entering that whatever zone it was that he kind of got at him.
Oh my God!
You'd imagine that he's pretty happy now with the way
Yeah.
the older lad has turned out. He mightn't just have to turn up the heat on Job quite yet.
You've got like friend of the show, Martin Odegaard, who at 15 made his breakthrough and was being the Real Madrid links had begun in earnest, and then he kind of went off the boil, and now he's back. Like for whatever Tony Adams thinks, like he's at an elite level. Like he's captain of Arsenal and a Premier League contending team. So that's the best you can hope for when you break through at 15. It's rare enough that someone like arrives at superstardom and just keeps on that jet stream forevermore.
Lamine Yamal or somebody.
Yeah.
But even or
Wayne Rooney, I suppose.
Max Dowman came on the other day for Arsenal. It's been well flagged. He played in pre-season. The talk was Arsenal wanted to play him last year, but they couldn't for reasons that are...
He's like the Finbar Rorty of North London.
Yeah, but like he became the second youngest ever player in Premier League history the other day, only 100 days behind Ethan Nwaneri. But Nwaneri was a different case. He was 15 when he came on, but I think Arsenal were down bodies and he was humming and hawing signing his first professional contract, and it was a bit of a token gesture because then he didn't appear again for another 2 years, whereas it looks like Dowman is, he's here,
Yeah, Evan Ferguson obviously famously in that friendly against Chelsea, and like hopefully you're going to get to the Ireland squad, but maybe this is a turning point, but it's not always plain sailing, even though it might seem like that in the initial phase. And it's an interesting point you made about Nwaneri, because there's another guy, JJ Gabriel, who's in the Man United academy, and like part of the getting him to sign a contract is we're going to include you in first team training, and he's 14.
Yeah.
So it's just, where does this end?
Yeah.
You're both teeing up the Ireland squad chat for me. So
Louis Barry declaring for Ireland, by the way.
Big news, Aston Villa's Louis
Another
Barry.
teen prodigy.
Former Barcelona. You asked me about him today before I knew he had declared for Ireland. I said, nah. And then you told me he declared for Ireland, and I was like, okay, well, yeah, he could give us something.
You can see it.
Yeah. Hamer Hallgrimsson has named his 23-man squad for Hungary and Armenia. Headline, it's always tough to leave Seamus out. I was watching the Everton-Brighton game, and Seamus was ready to come on for into the new stadium. I don't think it was would not be a nice gesture. I think it was, let's get this boy on to see this out. But he actually never came on. So I suppose top line, Smallbone and Brady are out injured. Callum O'Dowda's left out. Don't know if that's a top line anymore, is it? I mean, are you going to get worked up about me telling you Callum O'Dowda has been passed up?
Well, just because he's I see him on the Irish Independent homepage a bit, because he's teamed up with Robbie Keane, Ferencváros, so it's kind of playing in Champions League matches. But just because Robbie Brady is out, I kind of figured he'd get in.
His trajectory's been interesting. O'Dowda just said he's just become this normal left back option that we've had in our heads, where he was always, I used the word wild card. He was almost supposed to be that attacker, that wide attacker, like a Mikey Johnson-esque player when he broke through. But he's been left out, and Hamer was asked about that and asked about left back cover, and he just said Ryan Manning's there, Liam Scales, Matt Doherty can play there. So he's happy enough.
I kind of, like, without knowing, like, the merits of all the players exactly who were left out and left in, like, I do enjoy the fact that the manager seems to know, like, the fact that there are questionable calls or what we perceive to be questionable. I sort of deem that to be a good thing, because like, you get this amplified, particularly in England, when the squad is chosen. How can you leave this guy out? And like, you have to build a team. It's not just about rewarding the guys who are playing the best at a particular time. There has to be some continuity from the last game. There has to be some, otherwise, like, it doesn't make any sense. So just at a very, very, very material level, I do kind of, you do get the sense from Hamer that he has hunches about fellas, and he likes guys, and the team is starting to take shape because it needs to. Like, it's obviously, I remember this time last year talking about the first international window and feeling a little bit kind of, oh God, we really need this now. Whereas this one is really, this one is different. This one is huge.
Yeah.
I said it to Gary Breen yesterday. I don't remember such an acute feeling of the whole campaign hinges on the first game week or international window, because anytime Ireland have qualified for any tournament, they've started fast or had at least a signature result either on the board, or like I think of the one where James McLean scored in Vienna. There's obviously more high profile examples of that in the O2 qualifying campaign, for example, but just a sign that, like, getting a big away win is obviously helpful, but just showing signs that we're not out of this like halfway through, which has been the case recently. And the Seamus Coleman thing is, is interesting because I think many a manager would have just kept him because he's a good lad around the place and, you know, good leadership qualities. But Hamer made the point today that Jason Knight's a captain, Nathan Collins is a captain, Jimmy Dunn, Liam Scales captain Celtic the other day, Jason Knight. You know, there's like lots of leaders in this team. So
Josh Collins,
sorry, was the obvious one. Scored a goal at the weekend and got an assist. So I think if there was a dearth of leadership there, and that's not to mention other senior players like my friend Matt Doherty, that you know, there's good leadership in this team, and he doesn't need to pick Seamus as a mascot. When Seamus is ready to contribute on the pitch again, he'll definitely be factored in, I think.
He said it would have sent the wrong message picking Seamus Coleman, which is to Connor's point. Really, he's building a team, and like this is the World Cup qualifiers now, and he deliberately made that decision in the summer to give some boys a break.
Yeah,
because he knew like that was their last opportunity.
Give him credit for that as well. The whole thing of leaving out championship players for that last series, like, can't be revisionist about this and say if it doesn't work out for whatever reason in this campaign that was a bad idea for some reason. That was a good idea. It empowered players, gave them guaranteed minutes, and it gave people a rest. Like the likes of Finn Azaz and Manning and Mikey Johnston, they've all started fast, like in the championship.
Yeah,
that breather might do them the world of good.
Yeah, and he's also picking the Everton right back as well, so that would have been hard to square if he, you know, he hasn't to bring somebody who's sitting in behind Jake O'Brien as well. Would have preferred more than 4 midfielders though, just in terms of the balance of the team. I know Finn Azaz, and you can throw a few other people in there, and people dropping from the number 10 role, but just would have looked a bit nicer if we had some more options.
You were saying Evan Ferguson's look lean, mean.
Oh wow,
Roman fighting machine. Yeah, the fact that he opted for a sleeveless top, Hamer thought was significant. So let's see. And Troy Parrott as well. There's just something very, I don't know, alluring about this potential strike force. If these two fire us to World Cup glory, it would quite something.
There's something impossibly glamorous about having the Roma number 9 as the Ireland number 9. Do you know what I mean? Like, I want this to work out for Evan Ferguson far more than I wanted him to get into the Brighton team.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, Roma, come on.
That's a good point.
This is Francesco Totti. Daniele De Rossi, or, you know.
And then having Italians from the capital taking a vested interest in the Ireland team.
I'm sort of a picture like James Richardson sitting down outside a cafe with Gazzetta dello Sport or whatever, and Evan Ferguson across the top line. That's still the image that Roma and Italian football evokes.
Yeah, fundamentally, it's just a much better thing in your career to be like starting for Roma, and the sense that like it's obviously in the early throes of things, and if he's not banging in the goals, it might change, but there is a sense that a bad performance or an off day won't mean you're on the bench behind Danny Welbeck for another month. You know, I think Roma are in behind this lad, and I think they're gonna. I think the signs are that he will flourish.
Did you mention leaders there earlier on? Leaders of the Irish team, leaders of Ireland. What about the president of Ireland? What about Jim Gavin? Imagine my shock when I woke up and read this. Former Dublin Gaelic football manager Jim Gavin is believed to have the support of Taoiseach Micheál Martin if he seeks to become the Fianna Fáil candidate for the presidential election. The former Defence Forces officer, now Chief Operations Officer of the Irish Aviation Authority, has not commented on whether or not he wants to enter the race. But there is growing speculation among Fianna Fáil TDs that he may emerge as a credible candidate who could garner the support of both the parliamentary party and the leadership. Dublin needs this, Connor.
Yeah, I don't know what to make of this. I have yet to read any suggestion that Jim is actually interested in it, any concrete suggestion that he is. If he is, you could be fairly certain he'd make a good go at it. Like watching Jim in action, I spoke to some people who were kind of in and around the FRC that said the same thing. Like his greatest strength is he's a great strategist. He's a great organiser. So you can be absolutely certain that if Jim Gavin was interested in being the next president of Ireland, he would have read the Constitution inside out and any other piece of literature that pertains to the role of the president, and he would carry it out to the very, very specific letter of the law. And that's kind of what he's about. But it's just, there's some part of me can't see him on the campaign trail. Do you know what I mean? It would seem like for a guy who's as kind of, you know, I do remember that awful debate that was on questions and answers or whatever we used to call that. The one that was involved with David Norris and your mum, that fella.
I remember Martin McGuinness being on one of those.
Yeah, and there was a lot of mudslinging, and it was quite sort of unbecoming. And I just can't see Jim Gavin in that sphere. But like I was talking to a couple of people who would know Jim pretty well, and like they were kind of saying, well, I mean, if somebody said it to him, listen,
Yeah.
Jim, could be a thing.
Yeah.
You can imagine him. Could I imagine? So the sentence Jim Gavin would make a great blank. There's very few things that you could put in that blank. There's very few things that you can put in that blank.
Meath manager.
Do you know? Yeah, but like he would make a great Meath manager. Of course he would.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If that kind of happened, he'd make. There's very few things I can't imagine him doing well. So it probably comes down to whether he's interested and whether it's actually viable.
Would he feel like he has enough time to do it the way he wants to do it? You know, if I don't know, if it has just been thrown at his doorstep now recently, and he probably wants to read everything inside out and strategize everything, it just feels like he'd want more time to get under the bonnet of this thing.
So we're obviously hearing about it now. The extent to which he is also only hearing about it now would seem to be that seems to be the case. Like that, as much as we're processing this on the fly to an extent, I'm sure there's been moments this week where he's been hemming and hawing on it, because it is like, of the time has there ever been a GAA figure in an administrative role is at a higher approval rating off the back of the FRC? Like, anytime anyone's tried to quote unquote meddle with the beautiful game, it's usually met with resistance, and the fact that it got through was an unprecedented step in the first place, and I think has been widely heralded. Like, so
it's unanimous.
Oh, like, and you're right to mention the FRC was almost a punching bag. You know, going back years, it was like the All-Star Committee. You know, because it's always just somebody's going to be upset about something, and as soon as, remember the 3 hand passes, for example, I was one of them. As soon as a referee got one of those calls wrong, it's like, Jesus, what are they doing with this game? Like, and that was the FRC.
But the hallmark of the FRC's work is the hallmark of Jim's work. You know, like in the initial stages of it, and you could get this from conversations you were having with people who you'd meet in the street and saying, "Oh yeah, Jim Gavin obviously loves, you know, the long kick out," or Jim Gavin, and literally none of the FRC's ideas are Jim's preferences. He's no interested in his own preferences. Nobody knows what his preferences are. What they did was they got the terms of reference as given to them by Jarlath Burns, i.e. make Gaelic football the most enjoyable game to play, watch, blah, 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 blah. And then they surveyed the entire membership of the GAA to find out what it is that they wanted, and then devised rules that you could bring in and road tested the rules you could bring in to achieve that. So that's what I'm saying about Jim. He's a very sort of literal man. And if it was the sort of thing, I can't see him taking it on unless he was given some pretty strong assurances that he was going to win. Yeah. You know, I mean, I don't think it would be a strange look for Jim Gavin to be some sort of, you know, almost celebrity candidate that was selected by Fianna Fáil because, you know, they can't figure out whether whether Bertie Ahern is sufficiently tainted or whatever it is, and then it kind of blows up. But we were just saying this on the desk. One of the things that a potential Jim Gavin candidacy definitely has in its favour is I'm not exactly sure how strong the competition is at the moment.
Yeah, I can see from Fianna Fáil point of view why it would be enticing, to Conor's point, where there's questions that would be put to any other Fianna Fáil candidate that's more long-standing that he can actually just play with a straight bat and be like, well, you know,
what do you want from me?
Yeah, I wasn't involved at that time, you know. And like, if he gets to a point where he's on the ballot paper, he will have the GAA vote more so than a lot of managers who've been as high profile as him, because I think he's well received, like, outside of Dublin. For a manager who dominated all around him for the best part of a decade, it's not as if there's any sort of anti-Jim Gavin buzz. Like, I feel like you wouldn't be voting against him on firm grounds of anything he's done in a GAA capacity, I don't know.
How would the role sit with him though as well? You're saying about the campaign trail, Conor, which I agree with, although it's not the same, but I was surprised at how he was able to go to a different level, let's say, for the FRC campaign trail when he showed up on RT. He was doing these little TikTok videos for them, like they were recording, and he was giving them stuff in 60-second chunks, and he was up for that because he knew he had to do it because that's what the role required. But even if he was in the RS and then he's having to, you know, be a ceremonial figure, he's having to make appearances, he's having to speak about St. Patrick's Day or whatever, like he's having to do that constantly, then he can't be evasive. He can't play it down. He can't say, well, you know, all the days in March are very important and equally important, and we're just happy to be, you know, going by day to day.
But see, this is the other thing about Jim Gavin, is that people always took that media side of him when he was Dublin manager as being the true Jim Gavin personality, and it wasn't. Like, there was sort of a version of Jim that he confected for that situation.
Means to an end.
Because it was like, okay, so I have to do this. How do we get out of it in the best possible scenario?
Yeah.
That's the way his brain works. So there's a strategic element to how he treated the media. And there would be a strategic element, I would imagine, to how he would be a figurehead. And he would, he could be absolutely certain that anything he said or did would be properly researched and sort of thoroughly briefed on, you know. It's a really interesting one, because I can't think of another figure in the GAA. If that story had been on the front page of the Irish Independent yesterday morning, where I wouldn't have just laughed it out of the shop. When I saw Jim, I was like, maybe.
What about Jack O'Connor? One behind Jim in terms of All-Ireland titles. Maybe he needs to win one more to then be considered.
That would be a presidential election.
That'd be 7 years' time.
That would be some election if it was those two.
Yeah, going head to head in 7 years. The Kerry manager has decided, he's been put forward for nomination for 2 more years, and I think we all sort of thought that he might leave, but he might not, and maybe it is stupid to leave now when Kerry are so well set up for this new world. Like they are the rulers of this new world.
Well, he did an interview with Colin Keys last March when he said this was definitely his last year. So we kind of took him at face value.
And his wife taking the picture of him going to training for the last time.
We were in the press conference after the game, and he basically said, "Look, I'm gone, lads. I have to tell players and stuff before I tell you." And I was actually in a small but select band of GAA journalists who spent most of that Sunday evening outside the Kerry dressing room waiting for David Clifford to come out to talk to us, because we hadn't kind of got any FaceTime with Clifford on his greatest day. And there was all sorts of coming and going from the Kerry dressing room, and at one stage somebody was sent to the players' lounge to call a couple of the players back because Jack wanted to say something. So we were like, oh well, this is it, Jack's gone. We just assumed that. We took it as read, and then by the next morning the Kerry County Board Chairman Patrick O'Sullivan was saying, well, he's going to stay on, and Jack himself was giving it the old, I don't know. And then Clifford the following week says, I want Jack to stay on. So, like, you're right in what you say. Like, the only thing that Jack hasn't done now is back-to-back All-Irelands. And one more would put him on, I don't know, the same number of All-Irelands as Jim Gavin. I don't know, does that sort of thing mean anything to him anymore? But the way they, like, last season, the 2025 championship was a total, like, absolute masterwork. The way they did it, the timing of everything, you know, like, they had a lot of injuries. They had a bit of a patchwork of a midfield, but by the end of it, they had kind of the best grasp on the new rules of any team in the championship. They produced their best football against the teams that usually cause them a bit of bother, and they produced an absolutely brilliant execution of a well conceived game plan in the final. So, I mean, where would you be going? You know, they have the best footballer of all time, and they have a pretty good age profile for the rest of the squad. And I don't know, you know, where the next kick from Armagh comes from. I don't know what the potential of Donegal is beyond what we've seen the next couple of years. I have no idea what Dublin are going to look like next year. So, like, it would have been the perfect way to go out, but an even more perfect way to go out would be doing back-to-back.
But the siege mentality, which got them, inexplicably, the aristocrats of football needed a siege mentality to win the All-Ireland. Do you think
that perfectly for a short spurt?
Do you think the returning players will, like, because it's hard to go back to back, obviously. Do you think being bolstered by returning squad members will fill in that gap? Because they lend on that a good bit, and admittedly and patently said it in most of their post-match interviews through that run that everybody's written us off. Like, they won't have that next year. They're going in as clear favourites, you know.
Yeah, but they'll concoct something. You know, I mean, that's the way it works. Well, like, Kerry cruised to the league title and they won a Munster title at their ease. We didn't see anybody coming out to tell them that they were done and dusted until they went to Meath and threw up a bit of a dud. So it can happen. But the only thing that
I just love asking you to predict the 2026 championship in August.
In a word, Connor.
But the only thing is, talking to a few managers who are involved next year, they've all kind of said that what we saw from the season just gone is a very basic effort at trying to make sense of the rules. And they're all expecting a lot more kind of elaboration by the time we come back into it next year. And you can be absolutely certain that nobody's going to allow David Clifford to come in from that, you know, right wing. So you only get one sort of a crack at sort of unveiling your master plan, just as Kerry did. So they'll have to come up with something new and something different, and they'll have to get a bit of energy from a couple of players that we didn't see a whole lot of this year, and they'll have to make sure to mind their big guys, the Cliffords, Gavin White, Johnny O'Shea, all those fellas. Because like the easiest thing in the world is to project from your current position, and at the moment Kerry look by far and away the best team, but it's so difficult to kind of come back. It's interesting, there was a story doing the rounds that they were going off on their early under team holiday this year, which is the thing that Dublin did pretty successfully in the years they retained the All-Ireland. They got it out of the way, out of their system as early as possible. So but you know, if you were to put yourself in Jack O'Connor's shoes, and there was nothing in the rest of your life that was preventing you from doing another year, I mean, it's a bit of a slam dunk, isn't it?
So Kerry next year? You don't have to answer that.
In a word, Colin.
Yeah. Well, Clifford was able to turn somebody comparing him to Messi into a criticism.
Yeah.
Like this is Jordan or Michael Jordan levels of mastery.
Yeah, it's either you built us up or you wrote us off, but there's never anybody who's ever said anything constructive about a team or a player before.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's all we have. What do we have coming up, Ronan, for the rest of the week?
You put me on the spot now.
Yeah, well, you put me on the spot today when you said let's do a bits and bobs at 3:15.
Well, actually, full disclosure, you asked me, are we doing bits and bobs? I said no, I think we have enough going on.
Yeah.
And then
So I said, okay, grand, I'll come in late to work.
his
then.
name is Rio, and this lad scores the last minute winner. I'm like, geez, we've no room for any more football chat. We did a full football show yesterday, so bits and bobs was the best vehicle to get it. So that's where we've ended up here. But
Are we happy to call it bits and bobs now? Because that was also up in there. Where it was like, well, we just get together and call it a non-bits and bobs.
is this a bits and bobs? Yeah. No, I think we've hit the markers, all the hallmarks of a bits and bobs.
That's all I needed.
Nice mix of levity and gravity.
Yeah. Thank you very much for listening. We'll be back tomorrow with Conor McKeown and Jaime Diaz. Keep an eye on your feed. See you then.